試咪，聲音畫面有冇問題？聲音畫面有冇問題？我都睇下我自己先。試咪，有冇反應？好似 OK 喎，好似有反應喎。有冇人喺度？我哋開始我哋呢個唔會成日有嘅，放心。呢啲直播係即係今日咧就同大家去研究同埋討論。咁啊，外國嘅著名偵探級 YouTuber 咧揾到答案啊！即係佢哋咧呢個畫面上面呢個人啦，等我播好少少佢個樣先。係啊，我哋播好少佢個樣先。咁啊，呢個 YouTuber 咧就幫到，即係佢好勁嗱。佢咧我哋開頭咧都要介紹一下呢個 CoffeeZilla 呢個外國著名 YouTuber 啦。Coffee 就係咖啡個 Coffee 啦，Zilla 就係 ZILLA 嘅 Zilla。咁啊，呢個就係 CoffeeZilla 啦。咁佢本名咧叫做 Steven Finderson， 係啦，佢係知名嘅加密貨幣記者同埋調查型 YouTuber 嚟嘅。咁啊，而家係 subscriber 400幾萬啦，定係應該再多啲啦已經。咁佢咧勁嘅話係咩咧？佢原本咧係做建築商嘅房屋銷售員，即係又未去到做地產 agent，但係咧係依附住啲地產商、建築商嘅。咁之後咧佢咩事咧？就因為佢阿媽咧生 cancer， 然後咧就被啲人咧去誘導去購買一啲冇效嘅所謂治療產品。咁佢就開始咗啲調查啦，可能之後就係拍 YouTube 啦咁樣。咁啊，然後亦都大學時期多次俾人 sell 嗰啲層壓式推銷嗰啲類似直銷 plan 啊、龐氏騙局 plan 啊咁樣。咁佢咧都調查過好多單咧好出名嘅嘢嘅。首先咧佢就係 Save the Kid Token 啦，咁啊佢咧揭露咗呢個 pump and dump 嘅騙局啦 ，FTX 嘅問題啦，即係呢個 Sam 即係嗰個爆炸頭嗰個阿 Sam 啊。係啊，咁啊 FTX 交易所啦，咁啊亦都被呢個華盛頓郵報咧譽為加密領域最有影響力嘅獨立新聞來源。另外亦都揭露咗有啲 NFT 嘅詐騙，咁啊唔係試當真嗰個，試當真嗰個就冇詐騙嘅，因為我係會員，咁所以咧我係享用到入邊嘅福利嘅，係呢個 Logan Paul 啊，好出名嘅 Logan Paul 啦，即係外國同阿 Mike Tyson 打拳嗰個。另外就係今次啦 ，Bricks and Manifest 啦，咁啊今條片咧佢勁嘅嗰個位咧。佢就係會好邏輯、好客觀咁樣同大家去分析，同埋佢最勁咧就係佢揾到Bricks and Manifest 嘅 CEO， 即係呢個叫做 Edmund Micallef 啦，同埋佢細佬 COO 都係叫 Micallef 嘅，咁啊兩兄弟，咁啊調查啦，亦都咧揾到前東主係啦嘅訪問，亦都係做到嘅，亦都最後係有打俾阿 Rickles Band 嘅。咁總之咧，即係涉事嘅人咧，佢用佢嘅名氣啦、成啦。都能夠令到佢哋咧全部係視像通話，然後咧亦都係兜口兜面咧係有拆穿過某一啲嘅大話啊、成啊咁樣。咁究竟呢所謂價值20萬嘅 Lego 去咗邊咧？係咪？即係你有人攞咗又好，劫咗又好，撻咗又好，嚇從來都冇嘅都好，都起碼係有件咁嘅事啊！嚇啲 Lego 去咗邊咧？咁佢係做一個好完整嘅調查嘅。咁所以咧，咁我哋咧今日就開始。喺呢一個 CoffeeZilla 呢個接近1個鐘啊，咁52分鐘嘅 YouTube 片，咁咧就係講佢咧點樣層層咁樣去遞進啦，一層一層咁剝開嗰個外皮啊，然後去揾到咧究竟啲 Lego 去咗邊度，就係咁樣啦。好，我哋咧開始直播，開始我哋今日嘅呢個睇片旅程啦，嚟開始。
A $200,000 Lego collection went missing, causing a lot of you to ask me to find it. And after seeing the cops point guns at YouTubers, people get arrested and sued for $1.3 million, I decided enough was enough. This looks like a case for the internet detective, this time in the $10 million Lego studio. So I talked to every suspect involved, and what I found shocked me.
係啦，佢咧揾晒涉事嘅人傾啊！佢哋直頭連嗰啲貨單啊、出入帳啊、嗰啲 Excel 全部攞晒嘅，好勁啊！係啊 ，CoffeeZilla。
Okay, before we can find these missing Legos, let's give some background. A massive Star Wars collection was put on consignment at a Lego store called Bricks and Minifigs in Salem, Oregon. Consignment just means the owner, Brian Mansell, gave it to a store to sell, and he was supposed to get a cut when it sold. The entire time, he maintained ownership of the collection, and a social media post estimated it to be worth about $200,000. But then on November...
係啦，佢係有呢個有出個 post 嘅 Bricks and Minifigs 係有出個 post 嘅，係有價值20萬美金嘅，即係呢一 part 咧係冇講大話嘅。佢第一下俾即係呢個 Brian 父子啦，即係呢個 Mansell 父子啦 ，Brian 啦俾 Bricks and Minifigs 嘅呢間分店咧係俾咗20萬美金嘅，係堅嘅。
13th, 2024, everything went wrong. This was the
記住呢一日
night
啦
that Crystal
，11 月
and
24
Ben Gorman, the prior franchise owners of the Salem store, got kicked out by this guy. That is Brandon Best. He and his partner Josh Johnson ran a sister store in Eugene, Oregon.
係啦，咁啊大家記得啦，就係呢個 Joshua Johnson 啦 ，Brandon Best 啦，就係嗰兩個即係所謂奸角啦，就係新嘅呢間分店嘅店主啦，就係喺 Oregon 喺俄勒岡州 Eugene 呢個地方。
Brandon drove up that night to kick the Gormans out. Brandon and Josh would be taking over the franchise in Salem. And this is the exact moment the Legos go missing. As that store is getting handed over, the question is Brian's collection in it? Here's what the official Bricks and Minifigs press release reads. Quote, after taking over the store, we discovered a small number of sets valued between $2,000 to $5,000 that could be possibly related to Mr. Mansell's collection.
嗱，好少呀，佢呢度得2000至5000美金咋。
There's a problem here. There should be over 10 times that amount in this store, given their internal records and what we know the estimated value of this collection was.
應該多好多嘅。
Corporate saying there was
點解
$2,000 to
得咁少咧？
$5,000 in the store. Something happened to these Legos. But what? In order to solve this case, let's think about the suspects. First, who was there that night of the handover? It's only 3 people. Crystal and Ben Gorman, the former franchise owners, and Brandon Best, one of the new owners. These are our 3 biggest suspects, but they aren't the only ones. I want to address a few other suspects at the very start here. First of all, maybe this is just all the result of, plain old thieves breaking in. What about that possibility?
係咪有賊咧？
Hi, I am Chris. I
呢個
was
原東主
the previous franchise owner who signed the collection agreement with Brian Mansell.
And I'm Benjamin Gorman. I am the silent partner who's really bad at being silent.
We did have a couple of break-ins at the store. None of Brian's collections were in the police report or stolen during those.
前東主證
the
實
Gormans say emphatically it
冇
wasn't
小偷偷嘅。
thieves, but if that's the case, what about the guy who was arrested? I mentioned at the beginning of this video, Reckless Ben. This is the
係咪
YouTuber
Reckless
who
Ben
started it
偷嘅咧？
all. With a documentary, I tracked down the thief who stole $200,000 of Lego. Maybe it's the perfect crime. Make a video tracking yourself. Now, for our theory, it's worth noting Ben is currently facing a RICO lawsuit by Bricks and Minifigs. He was even targeted with a search warrant for stolen Legos.
Included in the warrant are Legos.
The owner reported overhearing conversations about possible stolen Legos.
And on top of that, Reckless Ben was even accused of stealing the Legos by the current franchise owner.
I stole the Legos?
What do you think of the theory that it was Reckless Ben? He stole the Legos.
It's absurd. We didn't even know Reckless Ben. He
Yeah.
had no interaction, no relation to us, no relation to the store. That doesn't hold any water.
Okay,
Oh,
I'm gonna be
前東主
honest.
confirm
Apologies to the genius cops in Utah who play different.
We play differently here.
But I don't believe that Reckless Ben stole the Lego, mostly because he couldn't. He just wasn't there that night, and I don't even think he knew about these Legos. But who does Ben suspect is holding the Legos since he did this whole documentary series?
The guy who runs the entire company, Ammon McNeff, he personally came out to talk to us.
So what's going on?
So you guys are holding some of our Legos?
No, we're not.
You're not?
No.
Is that a lie?
No.
That's a lie. You did take the Legos.
No. So we have our attorneys have visited, but like again. So who's like
Brian Mansell.
Okay, and who's that?
He's a guy who had he had like $200,000 worth of Legos in your guys' store.
Nope. Never happened.
My name is Ammon McNeff. I am the CEO of the Bricks and Minifigs brand.
So my name's Matt McNeff. I'm the COO of Bricks and Minifigs.
The people you just saw are the McNeff brothers. They agreed to speak with me to try to clear their name. I asked them, do they have the Legos?
What I can tell you is that we don't have it. We've never had access to them.
It's
嗱，呢個咧係佢哋視像對話緊嘅，所以即係佢可能呢啲插得即係突然啲，佢係揾咗呢個 McNabb 兩兄弟咧去問，喂啲 LEGO 係咪你哋偷嘅？直接問嘅。
Seems to kind of go missing. Parts of it seem to go missing on November 14th.
Well, and I guess no, not at all. I'm going to say, like that is not accurate at all. Because
so you think that the collection was in the store at the time or elsewhere?
Elsewhere. When you look at Mansell's own words that he reiterated to a podcast last year, he explicitly stated to another podcaster the sets were moved off-site for security.
The collection will not be stored on site after hours for security reasons, and after Sunday, the sets will be available for purchase but stored elsewhere.
Now, one thing that's been a big subject of the Bricks and Minifigs kind of story is, hey, there are these off-site locations. Can you address what that is? Is that true?
So the off-site location in the letter that that corporate is referring to is the original press release that we released when we were launching the collection. In that press release, because we had previous break-ins, I specifically included the location that after this weekend, those Legos would be stored off-site to deter any future thefts. They were briefly stored off-site after that launch weekend while I bought safes for the back room, and then they were moved back into the store.
Okay, so for most of the time, the sets were in the store after y'all got the safes in.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ammon McNeff suspects that a lot of the Legos weren't there that night. And then on the other hand, we just heard from Crystal and Ben Gorman explaining the off-site story, saying that later they no longer use those off-site locations. But what do we really know about the Gormans? They are the former franchise owners after all. I mean,
究竟我哋有冇理解過佢哋咧？
They're one of our key suspects. They were there the night we lost Brian's collection. They were the creators of the consignment deal after all. And one group in particular is pointing their finger at them very hard. It's the McNeffs who say they were behind on payments.
We started getting calls from the landlord letting us know that Crystal was behind on the lease payments at the location. We had also gotten a couple of notices from some of our vendor partners that bills had not been paid by the store. And so we felt pretty strongly that there was going to be a risk of her just, like attempting to file bankruptcy, doing some of these other types of things, which we've had franchisees do in the past, and that's problematic. So that's why we sent him up there to take some video footage. So we needed to just be prepared if we needed to do a hostile takeover, which, like can happen in franchising where a franchise owner just, kind of tries to steal inventory and do some different things that way.
Okay, so Bricks and Minifig's story is that they were worried about the Gormans skipping town, so they
即係咧，佢哋話呢個原有東主咧就又冇乜交租啊，又欠貨款啊，咁所以咧就我哋先下手為強咯，我哋接管咗佢咧就快啲啦。如果唔係咧，佢陣間如果申請破產咧就好煩啦。咁所以咧就派咗 Brandon Best as a secret shopper on October 24, 2024. 拍片影相。
Before the takeover, Brandon takes a video of the store condition in preparation for this handover. But at this point, Brandon does not announce himself to Crystal Gorman. Later, though, on November 14th, once again, the same concern about the Gorman stealing or theft was expressed by the McNeffs.
Brandon was trying to make sure that they weren't taking things from the store, and so he was kind of trying to make sure that she wasn't putting things, like hiding things in the back, and that and while he was watching that, trying to make sure Ben wasn't grabbing stuff from the store and moving it or doing anything along those lines, because he just got a weird feeling about the whole transition.
She took at least one, if not more than one, cartfuls of things out to her car with her coat draped over it.
So yeah, the McNeffs say, look, they don't trust the Gormans.
前東主偷啊，係嘛？
even further, they said, hey,
指證前東主。
there's some issues in her past.
She apparently has a retail theft and other criminal arrests on her record.
哇！佢仲話前東主喎，之前有偷嘢記錄喎。
We were not aware.
When was that?
I don't know. This has been brought out by several people online now.
Now look, that's a huge accusation to bring up, and so obviously I wanted to talk to the Gormans about it. They're like, she has a history of some type of burglary, theft.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what they're
wow.
saying. 點解佢個女變咗隻狗嘅？
Oh. Well, yes.
Well,
You
explain.
know about this.
Explain.
Yeah, when I was 19 years old.
How long ago is that?
I am 45 now. So this was in 1999. This, something that happened 25 years ago, has no reflection
25年前衰過
and
偷
no
嘢。
bearing on what happened in the last 2 years, my management of the store, what happened the night corporate seized the store. It is another deflection, and it infuriates me. You're gonna try to publicly embarrass and shame me for somebody that was manipulated by local police departments when she was pregnant and 19 years old? Fuck you. That's my response to that.
勁撚癲喎！人哋25年前偷個嘢都俾佢攞埋嚟用喎，好癲喎呢個 BM 個 CEO。
I'm so sorry, you're gonna have to blur and cut a lot of this, but that pisses me off. I own what I have done. I own the mistakes that I have made. You cannot intimidate and bully me into backing down when I know that legally and morally I am in the right and I have the evidence to back it up.
Wow, this is getting kind of nasty and personal at this point, and I just wanted to give people kind of their side. But at every turn, I hope you understand, I'm getting contradictory stories, down to if the McNeffs knew about her history in the first place.
Like, they're bringing up something that I told them about.
Wait, you told them?
Told them. They asked me.
They said they had no idea. They said if we knew, we would have never hired her.
Because we would not have hired her had we known this.
I told them I had a record from when I was 18. There was a family issue that, and didn't go into all of the details, but they were like, that's so long ago, we're going to hire you based on who you are now.
Okay, I'm just going to
即係有
leave it
講
there.
過
You guys can make up your
佢
own
哋
mind.
話
My
唔
point
知
is, one side says up, the other says down, and it
嗱呢個咧亦都係我哋咧用邏輯判斷啦，即係我當佢有講又好冇講又好，呢單嘢係發生喺25年前，都真係雖然即係咯已經25年前啦，又冇再犯啦，即係起碼佢冇另外一啲嘅 record 啦，然後佢今時今日攞翻出嚟去抹黑個前東主咧，係擺撚到明係個 BM 個 CEO 係心地唔好，係黐撚線㗎啦已經係，即係即使佢有偷嘢有偷過嘢啦。佢喺申請做加盟商嘅時候有冇透露過佢有冇偷嘢都好，呢個行為都係黐撚線嘅。
point, both sides start hinting that they have photographic proof from the night of November 14th that proves the other side is lying. And so I'm like, look, at this point, let's stop talking. Show me the Legos.
Where I was told we are 100% have possession of photos that prove that the Gormans are lying. And then you guys are telling me we 100% have possession of photos that prove this side's lying. Who's going to drop the photos first? I mean, I feel like someone just has to, somebody's right here.
And after a lot of convincing, both sides agreed to show me the photos, corporate and the Gormans. In fact, I scheduled the calls to do this an hour apart from each other. But let's remember their positions for a second. The Gormans say whatever was left unsold of Brian's collection that was in that store spreadsheet was in Salem store the night of November 14th. Then you have corporate side. They say whatever was left that night was maybe $2,000 to $5,000 of Legos. The rest was either stolen by thieves, the Gormans, or held off site. It was not in that store. And on both sides, there's a lot to lose here, right? You've got the Gormans, who basically have been insinuated to have been stealing. And for Josh and Brandon too, the new franchise owners, there's a lot on the line. I reached out to Josh and he told me, I think her pictures would only show a few sets and minifigs. I replied, so if I can prove that the Lego sets were in the store, that will prove Brandon was lying. Josh replies, if it shows something different, then yes, I will eat my words. So the stakes have been established.
嗱呢個咧好簡單，即係話呢個主持咧 Coffee Stealer 咧就同咗Brandon Best 講，就係話即係佢哋就覺得咧，即係11月14號咧，大家記得呢個日子啦，就係佢哋交收個日子啦。就係佢哋盤點咧係唔清晰嘅，個 list 係唔清晰嘅，咁所以咧佢哋有啲嘢咧係我哋個鋪頭冇，然後佢話有嘅，咁然後佢話喂，如果我喺你哋嘅嗰啲 Excel 嗰度 prove 到佢擺嘅貨係喺你度嘅話，咁你點先啊？我食翻我啲我講我嘅嘢啦，咁我即係咁樣，咁咧就開個賭盤啦。
And let's see the evidence, starting with Matt McNeff. First, he showed me the video, October 24th, 2024, for a baseline of how the store looked.
So this is the Salem Kaiser location, is that correct?
It's the Salem Kaiser location.
呢個係交易之前幾個禮拜嘅。
Quite a few Legos here. I mean, I'm seeing a store of Legos.
Brandon Best 自己影嘅。
There's a good amount of Lego on hand.
係啊，即係佢扮顧客影
What I
嘅。
would say is a well-stocked bricks and minifigs, but it's not terrible. It's I would say a little below average as far as overall stock. So now let's go to November 14th. Can you still see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So November 14th. When Brandon was
交易
in
嗰
there
日。
helping
Wait, this
to-
is the day. This is like the big day.
This is the day.
Hold on.
交易
I
嗰
gotta
日。
prep myself emotionally for this.
Okay.
This is a big deal. This is D-Day. This is the big moment. This is Brandon takes over the store. This
And
is
I wanna-
we don't know where the Legos are after this moment.
We don't know where the Legos are after this moment. And I want to point out again that we've had this for a while. We haven't this is the first time we've shown this publicly. We've been waiting for our attorneys to give us the approval to say, hey, this is okay now to share in this capacity. So this we'll go through these pictures. This is what Josh saw. Or not Josh.
哇！交易嗰日，咦少咗好多喎，個架上面。
all the inventory in the store. This is what the shelves look like compared to what you just saw a moment ago.
點解個貨架少咗咁多貨嘅咧？
Okay, so I'm seeing a lot less. Just to state the obvious, go back a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm seeing like way less. So yeah, the pictures I was being shown on November 14th, those shelves looked emptier than they did on the day of October 24th. But to be fair to the Gormans, they addressed the empty shelves themselves.
As we get to the very end of this video in particular, right here, you'll see that empty space right here. So this is the retired and certified set section that we have to keep separate from the new in box current sets being sold by Lego. All those empty spaces up there were the sets that we had on display during the day from Brian's collection that every night when the store closed, we pulled off and put back into the safe and then put back out in the morning.
哦，即係原來每晚咧，佢哋會將 Brian 嗰啲貨可能值錢啲啦，費俾人打劫啦，係會放翻入個夾萬度嘅，第二日先放翻出嚟
You see
嘅。
there's empty space on the shelves? Yeah, because we put them in safes at
Yeah,
night to keep them safe.
because we have giant windows.
Yeah, it's an explanation that kind of makes sense given the history of burglary. Now, of course, this is something I had to ask the McNeffs about.
Is this a case of, did y'all see Star Wars sets in the back? Did y'all not see the Star Wars sets in the back? Did he take, not in the back, but specifically in a safe? Like there were a bunch of Star Wars sets in a safe. Did Brandon see those? Has there been talk of those? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. My understanding is that he took pictures of everything, and all those photos I showed you of the Star Wars were all the photos, or was literally all the Star Wars inventory in the store.
Yeah, the McNeffs say all of the photos should be with Brandon of all the Star Wars items. And to be fair to them, they showed me a lot more pictures and even showed me a spreadsheet of all the Star Wars sets in the store the night Brandon took it over. And it valued to about like $5,000 to $10,000 or so. But then I had to ask.
Sorry, here's another kind of set.
Okay.
Do you think y'all have all of these?
Very likely.
Okay.
原來有晒 number 嘅啲
Again,
盒
I'd be surprised if we didn't.
But then I couldn't help myself. I started to bring up some of Crystal's photos to see if they matched up.
原東主
Have you seen this before?
原東主俾佢哋相。
Not that I recall.
So do you see that?
Yep.
So do you see it's in like some kind of like a safe thing? I don't know if you can see the sides there.
擺喺保險箱入
Looks like a
邊。
bookshelf to me, but sure.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So I think the important thing is making sure that all of these are in the inventory for Mansell.
即係其實就係擺咗喺個保險箱入邊咯。
Sure. That's cool.
個保險箱喺個鋪頭入邊嘅咯，仲要係。
Yep. The Vulture Droid.
75169.
169 I'm not seeing, so there may be... Okay, so there's one that is not on our list.
Let's try this. 10240.
Okay, nope, not seeing that one either.
What about 9493?
3. I don't see that one either. So maybe those were locked at the time, and Brandon did not get those pictures.
All right, that's kind of a problem because the Gormans had over 200 photos of this store. I definitely knew looking at these photos, there's a lot more Legos in the Gormans photos by quite a lot that Brandon's photos just didn't show. But corporate didn't really see it that way.
But still, in the grand scheme of things, we're not talking, again, 10 times the amount of sets here.
I don't know. I haven't shown all the photos yet. I don't know exactly how much.
If there's a calculable figure that we can look at and say, great, this is what was there, I promise you it's not $100,000 worth of Lego. And so where's the rest of it? You got me. I don't know.
Maybe I'm a little too in my head about this U-Haul story. You don't think it could have been some
U-Haul 係美國一個好出名嘅搬屋公司，即係專幫人搬家私啊、搬貨倉啊、成啊，咁誒叫 U-Haul 呢個牌子。
thing? There's no way.
係咪你運走咗啊？
Yeah, have we talked about the U-Haul yet? We gotta talk about the U-Haul for a second. This is another one of those things that was like really disputed between the two parties. Was this U-Haul that supposedly was driven up to the store the night of the takeover?
So when
喂，交易嗰日嗰晚嚇有部搬屋車喺度嘅喎。
Brandon came to the store that night, he was driving a U-Haul truck.
Now, in typical fashion, this was immediately disputed.
Brandon showed up to the Salem store in a rental car. When he came to get the keys from Crystal, he was there in a rental car, not in a U-Haul.
It wasn't until after he told me he was taking the keys and locking me out that I really kind of paid attention to the fact that he had a large, not the small, the large U-Haul truck.
So yeah, I just kept hearing about this U-Haul truck. Now, why is it significant U-Haul or not? Well, one, a U-Haul truck can fit a lot of Legos, but the big reason it mattered to me was because I was actually called by an ex-employee of the Bricks and Minifix store in Eugene, Oregon.
哦，嗰間鋪頭有前員工報料打俾佢。
That's the one that Brandon and Josh own, and he told me something very interesting.
I'm a former employee, started
前員工。
and I was working under the old manager Brian, and he sold the store to Brandon Best and Josh.
What store was this? Bricks and Minifigs where? Okay, now what did you see that made you want to talk to me?
I saw Reckless Ben's YouTube video about the Salem store closing down because when I was talking to my co-workers about the situation of Salem, and we were told through other employees that it was just a bad area to work in. It was like haunted, if you will, is what was going around. But after seeing the video of Reckless Ben, we exposed them, and it makes a lot more sense with what we dealt with Brandon and Josh. Like, oh, Crystal stole Lego sets and bolted out of the country.
Who says that?
Brandon.
哦 ，Brandon Best 一開波已經話，喺舊東主偷晒 Lego 啊，周圍散。
When he was dropping off all the Lego sets to us that night, and used like there was a bunch of used Lego sets that set were like Saran wrap. They had Star Wars City. They had just a lot of stuff. It was like a medium-sized U-Haul truck.
哦，嗰晚已經裝咗落架貨車度啊，交易嗰晚喎。
They brought a U-Haul truck.
From Salem to Eugene.
And to Eugene, and it had a bunch of Star Wars sets on it?
Yeah, Star Wars sets, like everything. A bunch of used stuff too.
Wait, when and was this when they took over the store from Crystal?
I believe so, yes. Yes, because he said that Crystal stole Legos and left the country.
While he has a U-Haul of Legos?
Yeah.
即係佢屌鳩緊 Crystal 嘅時候，佢架車入邊就係有好多 Lego， 然後屌鳩 Crystal 話偷晒 Lego。
Interesting. Weird.
Then he's like, we're just gonna hold on to this stuff until corporate tells us where we have to distribute it. And we're like, oh, well, it'd make more sense if we could take it because we're kind of struggling with, the product we put on the shelves.
Oh my gosh. We really got to find out. Was there a U-Haul that night or not? Everybody's disagreeing about it. This Eugene, Oregon guy says, oh yeah, a U-Haul showed up with Star Wars sets in it. Brandon was talking about the Salem store. You've got Matt McNeff saying there was no U-Haul there. It was a rental car. You've got Crystal saying, yeah, I thought it was really weird. There was a U-Haul truck there. So I told the McNeffs, I really got to find out what the truth is here.
If you know anything about it, let me know, because that's just something I heard.
I do, and it has nothing to do with the Salem store. Well, at least not the Salem store in the way that it is there. Brandon showed up to the Salem store in a rental car. when he came to get the keys from Crystal. He was there in a rental car, not in a U-Haul.
So when there was the handoff, there wasn't a U-Haul, it was a rental car.
Correct. He was there.
係啊，即係交易嘅時候咧冇 U-Haul 嘅，得架普通車啫，普通租翻嚟嘅車啫。
Okay.
And I think any of the, like, if you were to look at the footage, the ring cameras, all that stuff, you won't see a U-Haul sitting anywhere.
係啦，你睇下閉路電視睇相咪知唔會有
Hearing
咯。
all of this, I realized, look, I just gotta find the evidence. So I start sifting through these photos I have, right? I realize I have a parking lot photo. I check it. No U-Haul, just a red truck out there. I check another photo where you could see the window, but the problem is it's night outside, so you can't see. And so I'm looking at everything I can, and there's just nothing, you know? And I have this alternate angle, I'm looking at that, and then,
boom.
Wait a minute. Zoom in on that photo. Bring up the brightness of this photo a little bit, and
嗰晚嘅閉路電視
there's a U-Haul
就係有架
in the
U-Haul 喺門
parking
口，
lot
屌你老
right
味！
outside of the store the night of November 14th, 2024. This is something that Matt said he had seen footage of, and it couldn't be true.
And again, I believe I have seen footage from that night that shows clearly out into the parking lot, and there's no U-Haul.
After seeing this, I said, I really have to make a call. And that's when the story changed. So last night, I talked with Matt McNeff. I brought up this question of the U-Haul. He told me emphatically there was no U-Haul. Y'all came to me this morning. You said, hey, we looked into it. There actually was a U-Haul there that night. Can you clear up what that's about?
So there's actually two different things that are going on here, just to help you.
勁撚癲！喂，你個細佬話冇喎，有喎，而家俾埋相你睇喎，點算？
So I don't know if you want this particularly not on the record, but we do know of a disgruntled former employee that worked at another location that back on the 24th of October, there was a U-Haul that went to a storage unit in Salem for another previous franchisee, you know, like for a different situation that we had just you know, gone through some things, and he had a previously, you know, like, hey, I have some inventory that I didn't turn over that I was supposed to. It's at this storage location. You guys can come pick it up. And so Brandon was sent on that day to pick up with a U-Haul inventory that then he moved down, but that was October 24th.
哇！嗱，而家係11月14號係有架嗰啲搬屋貨車喺出邊啊，然後嗰個前員工報料係入邊報滿晒嗰啲星戰 Lego 㗎，然後咧咁啊俾人踢爆咗啦。之後呢一個 CEO 咧就話唔係10月24號，阿 Brandon 咧去咗另一間分店嗰度咧係攞咗貨嘅，咁佢咧就用 U-Haul 嚟攞嘅，係10月24。
So when we're talking about this ex-employee, you're saying they are conflating the October 24th event of the U-Haul coming up to Eugene with Legos with some time after November 14th, after the store takeover. Is that correct? Am I understanding that?
Yes.
So this
屌你老味，
is now
撐撚咗30日，
story.
29幾日。
Saying there was a U-Haul at the Eugene store dropping off Lego, but that was from a different night, different collection. The CEO says Brandon showed up to Salem on October 24th for his secret shopper job with Crystal, and separately, he also was getting a different collection of Legos that also included Star Wars, and that's what he brought to the Eugene store and the former employee is remembering. Then, weeks later, on November 14th, Brandon supposedly shows up again with a U-Haul, but the reason isn't for hauling Legos.
Brandon flew in to Eugene that night. At midnight. So flew from Utah on the 13th, but landed in Oregon on like midnight of the 14th. Went and got a rental truck, and then went and stayed at a trailer that had previously been moved up there in anticipation, meaning like a camper trailer, in anticipation of the potential hostile takeover previously.
Is that why he had a U-Haul? Is that the reason he had a U-Haul was for this camper, or what's going on with the?
Yes. So then what happens is he takes his rental vehicle truck, and he tries to connect the trailer, the camping trailer, to that truck, and it's not rated for that particular weight, and he realized, oh crap. He called around and found that U-Haul had a rating for one of their box trucks, and so he grabbed that went and got it at 10 a.m. on the 14th, and so he then went and hooked that trailer up to the camping trailer to a U-Haul, drove that trailer down to another location where he could set up the camping trailer in Salem, dropped off the camper trailer, and then he arrived in a U-Haul to the Salem store, and then went in, said hi to Crystal, and then as she was leaving, the door shuts, and so he locks it, calls the locksmith, takes him a while to finish up the changing of the locks. Brandon at this point is pretty exhausted, so and he has an hour drive back to Eugene to drop off the rental truck. So he drops it off at midnight or 1 o'clock, something like that, grabs the rental truck, and then heads back up to the camper trailer in Salem, and then is probably gets in at around 2 or 3 in the morning, spends a couple of that's a little bit of sleep before he has to head back to the store at 9 a.m. before the other employees get there. The timeline that is trying to be portrayed just makes absolutely zero sense.
Okay, so I asked, obviously.
屌你老味，問佢有冇 U-Haul， 佢話冇，劈爆咗話有啦，之後咧又話佢係屌你老味，又話落機之後咧，本身啲就話有個露營車，然後咧就諗住攞個 U-Haul 拖個露營車，點知拖唔到，咁所以呢個露營車咧就擺喺西林，個 U-Haul 個貨櫃車咧就去咗 Eugene， 之後咧又話要還車，咁啊還完車之後咧又再去翻攞個露營車，屌你老味，搞咁撚多嘢講，即係就係全部係大話咯，黐撚線。
Here's what I got.
佢自己講完都唔知自己講乜鳩。U-Haul 仲有
checks out what we already know.
張單。
Then I got sent a photo, the last one Brandon took in the Salem store, dated 9:44 p.m., where you can see what looks like the inside of a bird cage that the Gormans had. And lastly, I was sent a photo Brandon took of the mileage in the U-Haul as he dropped it back off at the rental place on November 15th, 12:41 a.m. Now, the time gap there is about 3 hours between the last photo in Salem to dropping the U-Haul off, which is a bit of a problem for our timeline.
哇！佢仔細到咁樣喎，佢問埋呢個U-Haul 去攞張單，佢哋應該還車收車嗰啲要影張相，然後你即係大家 iPhone 影相嘅時候咧，你係會將個時間地點 mark 埋張相入邊咧，收相嗰個係會睇到呢啲資料嘅。
You moved 4 hours of Legos out of this truck.
Yeah.
All right. So as weird as this U-Haul thing is, the timeline just doesn't fit, to be honest. If it took 4 hours to unload, you can't also drive to another city, load and unload and drop off the U-Haul in that time. But still, even if this is true, it's pretty weird. And it's one of the most bizarre stories I've ever heard, to have a U-Haul thing back to back. One of the times you're picking up Legos, the other time you're not, you're taking a camper. Nevertheless, without more proof, we kind of have to move on to another theory of how to find these missing Lego. This time, let's take the photographs that we have and reconstruct what was in the night on November 14th. Remember, that's the moment we lost the Lego. And this time, we're going to combine it with 2 more things. First, from corporate, I got the point of sale records from the store from 2023 to 2024. And secondly, from Crystal Gorman, I got her internal records of Brian's inventory. Sold or not, in order to pay him and keep track of prices. Now, before we piece things together, I need to address something. At the beginning of this story, you saw the social post saying this collection was worth $200,000. That's what everyone knows this story as, the $200,000 Lego collection. But sadly, that post was entirely wrong. In Crystal Gorman's inventory, which has a high and low estimate value of these various Lego items, the real estimated value is about $107,000. They give high estimates and low estimates, but that's right there in the middle. And for simplicity, I'll just be using averages and estimates here, but understand that, these numbers are not firm, given that they're unsold Legos. It's just rough possibilities. But the point is, it's worth nowhere near $200,000. And Reckless Bin, the one who made the original video covering this, said that surprised him.
Yeah, this entire time, literally every single person's been telling me there were $200,000. Like, that's how much, you could sell all these sets for.
My original assessment of about $200,000 was going up to his father's house and looking in 3 different rooms with all the sets. It was before I'd actually gone through and had set numbers and done an actual like evaluation. I looked at it and went based on as things progressed and as I started to delve more into the actual inventory and evaluating it, that number changed. But we put out the press release well in advance of the event itself, so that press release went out before I had those full numbers. So we went, this is a nice even number that will grab attention and bring people into the store, so we went with that.
And still, I mean, to believe that is accurate at the high end. Like, it was one of those things where when she was looking through and going, well, it says this and it says this, like, you don't think even at the high end?
You haven't actually seen the spreadsheet.
No, I haven't.
You might want to cut that part out because he hasn't actually seen the inventory sheet.
The spreadsheet says about from between 85,000 to 120 something thousand. In the midpoint about 107 or something like that of what was inventory. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this has been a really big point of misinformation to clear up, because if we're ever going to find the missing Lego, we need to start with the right number, the right value. It's about $107,000.
其實係10萬多少少嘅啫。
2023 and 2024, the Gormans record sales of about $24,000 of Brian's collection in their inventory tracking list.
賣咗24000。
Brian was entitled to about 65 to 70% of it. He was paid $17,000, which roughly tracks with that. Which means on November 14th, the big night, the remaining amount of Brian's collection that should have been in there is about $82,000.
應該仲有82000。
Now, it doesn't take a genius to realize this is a very different number than corporate provided, who found only $2,000 to $5,000
應該有8萬
to Brian.
但係總公司講
2000
2000
to
5000
15,000 in total Lego Star Wars.
So you're talking maybe $11,000 to $15,000 total Star Wars, and that's all Star Wars inventory in the whole store.
So that's corporate side of the story, but I didn't want to take their word for it. So I went through Crystal's photos myself, which she shared with me, and hired people to go through and hand tag the Star Wars Legos that were in these photos. We looked through over 200 plus photos, multiple videos, and matched what we saw with Brian's collection. In the end, I ended up with about $21,000 of Legos matching Brian's collection that can be proven to be in the store on the night of November 14th. Now, to state the obvious, that's about 3 to 5 times what corporate estimated, at least on their press release. Now, yes, there are inherent errors in these estimates. Maybe we picked up some Lego that matched Brian's collection, but wasn't Brian's. But even though this is a bigger number than corporate said, I have to admit, even with pretty generous assumptions being made, there's still a huge gap of about $61,000 here that I just couldn't find. But then I learned Brian had made a special side deal with M&R Productions, who had recently purchased some Legos from him. And this is where it starts to get messy. So these are the pictures that M&R Productions sent me, looking at the Lego that Brian sold him. This was stuff reportedly in storage, and it's interesting because of an early inventory list, which had a column called Location that Crystal used. And it listed a lot of the Star Wars items as being located in what they called storage. Now, previously, I was told that all of the stuff in storage was put back in the store, but there's a bunch that's on this list that I can't find in the store that seem to appear in these pictures.
即係搞完咁多嘢，咁啊到最後計翻，喂，應該仲有6萬蚊嘅貨喺度嘅，咁啊點樣都係多過個總公司講剩翻低嗰3、5千啦。咁然後咧就再計，喂，咁但係你間鋪又真係冇咁多喎，咁然後咧佢 check 翻 Excel 咧就，咦，有啲唔係都真係唔係放喺鋪頭喎，係放喺個倉度喎，寫住 storage 喎個 location。
I've been assured, by the way, that most of these Legos were not part of the inventory spreadsheet. They were never given to Bricks and Minifigs. This is a separate part of the collection. But I did a check, and 100% of the items that match the Brian collection inventory just so happen to be listed with a location of storage. So this starts to make things incredibly fuzzy, and I'm inclined to believe that a lot of these are part of that same inventory list. Now, if we take that value of the side deal, that's about $10,000 to $20,000 that's not actually missing. Now, it was at this point I started looking more at the point of sales records. I realized maybe we could find some of this missing Lego there too. So this is from the Salem internal store records. Like, I guess this is what is entered when someone does a sale, and it's everything from September 2023 to November 2024 of Star Wars anything. But anyways, according to those records, about $51,000 in sales went through during this time period in a way that matched Brian Mansell's collection. Now, that really worried me because Crystal's inventory list showed only 24,000.
明明賣咗5萬，但係就係 show 佢賣咗2萬幾。
But suddenly, I remembered back to a time when I spoke to Crystal, and I asked how much was sold prior to the takeover.
Which is something similar from what you told me, Crystal.
Yeah.
You told me, hey, it was about 50-something thousand.
Yeah.
But Brian was only paid 17,000.
Okay.
And it should have been about double that. And I'm just trying to make sense of that, given that.
嗱，呢個亦都係另一個複雜位啦。個原東主係有機會俾少咗錢 Mansell 父子嘅，因為如果佢係賣咗5萬蚊貨咧，要俾6成至7成咧，5、7、35係應該要俾3萬幾蚊 Brian Mansell 嘅，但係到最終佢只係俾咗17000啫，咁即係佢係有爭到 Mansell 父子嘅錢嘅呢個前東主。
Accusing each other of theft right now, you understand?
I mean, without seeing any of those records, without seeing those individual tickets, I can't answer that any better.
Okay, this is kind of a problem. The math ain't math in here. 65 to 70% of 50,000 is almost double what we believe Brian was paid. And digging into the details, it turns out a lot of these sales come from what Crystal's spreadsheet actually categorizes as layaways, meaning they were marked as having been sold, but layaways are when someone puts a down payment on an item and later pays it off. But
即係有啲放低訂金，即日放低訂金，佢就顯示賣咗，但其實咧係未俾尾數嘅。
Problem was
超
there
複
were
雜
a lot of these, worth about $20,000 in layaway, and that felt a little strange to me. And because of that, I asked Josh Johnson, the incoming owner, and he responded, quote, there were 2 to 3 items on layaway when they took over.
So on the list of that, on the inventory list, do you know about how many layaways?
I haven't gone through and done a count, but I know it was vastly more than 2 to 3.
It was about 98.
That makes sense.
So there were about
即係其實有98件貨呢啲人係落咗訂，未俾尾數嘅。
$15,000 to $25,000 worth of sets on layaway.
Okay.
That's just the part that's surprising. That's the part that I can't get my head around. I go, how could, let me just be really honest. I don't believe there was that much layaway. I don't know. I don't know how that's possible. How could there be that much layaway? I don't know. It's like I don't believe, because I was talking to some people about bricks and minifigs. They go, yeah, there's some layaway. There's not that much layaway. I talked to people who were neutral, kind of on corporate side, but also people who were just normal bricks and minifigs people. They say there's not that much layaway. Help me understand why there's $20,000 worth of layaway here.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely. If you talk to other bricks and minifigs locations, layaway is extremely rare. I think outside of the Brian's collection.
Okay, good. I'm not crazy here. So then why was there so much layaway there?
No. Absolutely not. Outside of Brian's collection, I think at the time we maybe had 2 used sets on layaway outside of his collection. Okay. It was not a common thing.
係佢嗰啲咁有價值嘅先至可以分期落訂。
Way before the collection came in. With Brian's collection, it was a little bit different because so much of this collection were new in box, all in one place, reasonably priced, and a lot of the harder to find items. And so customers would come in and put, I'm going to guess probably half of those layaway items were not going to be sold to the person who took them on layaway. Because we had several that would put them on layaway and then change their mind. So this was something like, somebody would come in and want 10 different sets, but only be able to buy 1. Can I put the rest of those on layaway so you don't sell them? I'll pay $10 to put these sets on layaway. Traditionally with layaway, we would ask for 10% down. They'd have 30 days to make their next payment, or we'd refund the layaway amount and then put it back on the shelf. Because this collection was the collection it was, and I wanted to give these people the opportunity to, sorry, dogs, to get these sets. We were a lot more generous with how long and the amount of payments that people could make towards the layaway. So a lot of these, we had several of them. I think one of the Ewok villages, we put on layaway 4 different times, and then it came off of layaway and back on layaway and then off and then sold. So a lot of these would have gone on and off of layaway and then back out on the shelf, just depending on the person who was putting it on layaway. That was completely unique to this collection.
So look, I'll be honest, I don't trust Josh Johnson, but something is weird here. So a lot of these are, see, like, look at this, like, so like it says POS final sale price, but it's listed as a layaway, but it's sold for $5.99.
Yeah.
Because it matches with the store sale price.
即係咧，佢有啲咧係要收，即係佢啱啱件貨啦，599蚊啦，咁你應該係收訂，然後收尾數啦。咁但係佢呢度個位咧就係佢收訂嗰個價錢已經係599，其實係唔需要俾尾數，但係佢 mark 咗做係呢啲分期俾錢嘅項目。
So were they on layaway? Were they accidentally marked layaway on the spreadsheet? What's going on there?
咁即係如果喺做數嗰方面，就係佢可以玩嘢，就係佢將啲貨中意嘅就 mark 晒做係預購，但其實佢嗰個人已經俾晒所有錢，件貨可能分分鐘佢都攞埋，但係佢將佢 mark 做即係落訂，咁就唔使找數俾 man sale 父子住咯。
Without seeing the actual sales ticket and seeing what else, like what items were sold together, what else was sold with it, I can't actually see the sales ticket. We had several layaway items in which customers were putting multiple things on layaway, paying for most of one item, and then, or they were buying, 8 different things together, and then putting all of them on layaway and making payments on multiple items at the same time. Our Ewok village was one of those cases. At some point he had, I think, like 8 or 9 different items on layaway. So they'd come in and make a payment for a bulk payment. I've got 800 things on layaway. I'm going to make $100 on my payment. One customer in particular would do that, and then when he'd gotten up high enough to pay for one set, we'd pull that set out, mark it as sold. So without seeing the actual tickets and my layaway records, I cannot answer a question any clearer than that.
But I even found more than that in this POS data. I also found about $10,000 in sales that match Brian's collection that were not marked as sold under this inventory spreadsheet. Some of our things that were not found were explained by the POS system because they were found in the POS system as being sold. So like they weren't marked on the spreadsheet, but they were marked as
即係有啲買咗嘅又冇 mark 到落個 POS 度。
sold via the POS system. And this is about $10,000 worth of Lego that basically were matched.
Huh. See, and I don't know. Take anything happening from, let's see, sorry, I'm trying to do math here. I don't know without being able to see all of the records. There is a possibility that the consignments were ended when I wasn't at work and I just didn't go through and pull them up. They didn't get put in the consignment ticket. I hadn't gone through those consignments in a couple of months. I hadn't gone through the inventory in the back room in a couple of months. So it is entirely possible there were sales that were finished that I never clocked as being finished. I don't know that without going through and actually seeing it.
But you're saying it's possible stuff was sold, not updated on.
賣咗未更新，係咪咧？
It's entirely possible that stuff did not get updated on my spreadsheet. I'm not going to sit here and claim it's not possible. It's possible I missed things.
So where does this leave us? I know some people are jumping to conclusions here, but I must remind you that on the night of November 14th, 2024, Crystal Gorman was concerned about Brian getting paid or not getting paid.
He has not been paid his percentage yet, and if I don't have the tickets, I won't know how much I need to pay him.
Okay. So Crystal, ultimately, those are that's a business thing and not necessarily yours. Brandon will take, because taking on the business, he takes on all that kind of side there.
So obviously, one could see that and say she was intending to reconcile with Brian. Maybe she hadn't gotten around to it. And of course, corporate will probably take a more cynical view of what she's doing by printing these receipts. But the point is, regardless of whose side you're on, I think we can all agree there's a lot of weird stuff here on all sides. Abnormal stuff. Sure, maybe you can chalk some of this up to bad record keeping between the U-Haul, the layaways, the $20,000 in Lego sets that corporate called $2,000 to $5,000 that was there that night, the off-book deals. But even if we can't like fully know 100%, you know, what these weird things were about, I think they tell a story of what actually happened to Brian's collection. In a way, multiple people, I think, are kind of right, kind of wrong. The Gormans were correct that more of that collection was there that night of the takeover than previously thought. But corporate also alleged that some of it was offsite, and that appears to be partly true, although some of that is disputed, and it looks like, you know, way more of the collection was sold and layawayed than Brian was paid for. But all in all, there's a lot less missing than many people think, especially if your starting number is $200,000. I estimated, and I must emphasize, estimated with bad records, that there's only about $10,000 to $20,000 in Lego that isn't explained by one of these sources. This isn't to say Brian's been fully compensated. Much of this Brian wasn't paid for that I know of. So I estimate he's still out about $50,000 to $83,000 for Lego he wasn't compensated for. And I think honestly that's something that Bricks and Minifigs obviously should handle and make right. Regardless of what a franchisee does, the new one, the old one, the company behind it must stand behind their product, their service, and I can't imagine a better example of a company doing the opposite. Unfortunately, Bricks and Minifigs has chosen to deflect and dodge responsibility at most opportunities and created a really awful customer experience that has snowballed into this crazy series of events. But instead of taking accountability for that, they've taken an aggressive legal strategy, which I told them personally was a horrible idea. As of writing this, Brian Mansell is being sued for $1.3 million as part of a legal campaign against him and Reckless Ben and any of the associates. Remember, Brian is the same guy who lost all these Legos at Bricks and Minifigs store. And I told the CEO and COO that's ridiculous and they should drop this. Look, mistakes have been made by plenty of people here, but there's a lot more people who have inflicted self-owns, the likes of which we've rarely seen, by just choosing the worst possible path at every fork in the road. No pun intended. But the best path to making things right, in my view, is by just making Brian whole and moving on. Drop the aggressive legal strategy. You are a Lego store at the end of the day. You are supposed to be about fun, not about a rerun of Suits. But anyways, that's my investigation. Those are my closing thoughts. And I knew I wanted to approach everyone involved in this whole story with my results and see what they thought to close things out.
Does all that make sense to you? Because I'm showing everyone in this story and saying, hey,
the thing
are any of these numbers blowing your mind, or is any of this crazy to you?
No, it's not crazy. But what's crazy, again, like all the photo evidence that both sides have points to there being, sure, $20,000 worth of Lego in this of Star Wars Lego in the store that night, right? I don't know, man. I'm just like, can people?
即係佢最後咧，佢呢個結論咧，佢有再同翻所有受訪嘅人講。總之最後阿 Brian Mansell 咧係點都係有5至8萬蚊美金嘅 Lego 係損失咗嘅。而另外咧就係間鋪頭無論如何點都好，其實係會有2萬蚊價值係喺間鋪度。無論有啲係喺鋪頭以外，有啲俾佢哋運走咗，乜撚都好。總之交嘢嗰晚係無論如何點都有 at least 2萬蚊美金喺間鋪頭入邊嘅。然後佢將呢一樣嘢同咗唔同嘅人講話，咦嗱，我而家聽完咁撚多人講，有呢個結論就2萬蚊。咁佢就問翻呢個 COO， 即係呢個 Evan McNeff 個細佬。咁就即係佢都係姓 McNeff 啦，就係你點睇
？Understand maybe why there was some confusion and why there was some hesitation when somebody comes in and says, "Hey, you owe me $60,000 worth of product from Lego," and we go, "We don't even know who you are." Like, yeah, Crystal mentioned something about consignment on her way out the door. And we go, sure, we'll get that figured out. But then the guy just walks in and demands $60,000 worth of Lego. Like, what am I supposed to do other than say, cool, show me, can you show me the proof?
The problem is there's so
嗱，好簡單嘅呢一個位咧，就係嗰個呢個 Bricks and Manifest 你呢個 COO 咧講大話，或者佢係嘗試去爭脱就係喂，如果係2萬，咁有個人同我入嚟講6萬，咁我點算啊？咁樣嗱，呢個係最戇鳩個位，呢個最戇鳩個位係咩咧？呢個咧都係一啲好基本嘅法律常識，即係亦都唔係法律常識，呢個基本常識就係今日你攞咗人哋間鋪。人哋間鋪之前又有同人哋有 consignment 啊，有合約有 contract， 唔好咁複雜啦。你要交租噶每個月，咁佢本身有簽租約噶嘛個鋪頭，咁你攞撚咗人哋間鋪，咁我租約都繼續俾噶啦。咁唔通第二日嗰個業主嚟講，喂，你要交5萬蚊租，佢話嚇，原來呢度5萬蚊租價，你唔會問啲問題噶嘛，因為你交易嘅時候你知道噶嘛。有好明顯就係佢哋急住要 keep 咗人哋啲 Lego 啦，佢連個貨櫃車 U-Haul 都拍埋嚟。佢話總之我 keep 撚晒呢一批 Lego 就我最想要做嘅嘢啦咁樣。咁佢就冇撚理到根本啲人，佢同咗阿 Mansell 父子簽咗幾多 consignment， 佢又冇撚理過。佢盤點嘅時候，佢又盤點得唔清楚，佢亦都唔知道夾物入邊有貨，或者佢知啦，因為佢搬走咗啦。咁然後你嚟到呢度話，喂，突然間有個人同我講話，我呢度有6萬蚊佢嘅貨，我鬼知啊！喂，屌你老味！你同人哋交易嘅時候你要知噶嘛？你同人交易嘅時候你要盤點清楚，你會同個賣方即係原有嗰個東主嗰對夫婦啊，你會講就係嗱，而家你鋪頭就有2萬蚊貨 whatever 啦，然後你咧就有同人簽 consignment 嘅，個 consignment 入面就係嗰啲貨，盤點咗清楚咗，你先至會攞人哋間鋪噶嘛。你唔會唔知人哋仲爭人哋幾多貨 consignment 咗幾多貨，然後你就攞咗人哋間鋪噶嘛？呢個就係佢處理手法，呢個就係佢戇鳩嗰個位。咁當然有人會行埋嚟同佢講話，喂，有6皮嘢喎，即係有個即係就係 Mansell 父子同佢講，喂，我有6皮嘢擺喺你度。Suppose 係應該要交易之前你已經要知道啊嘛。咁而家佢就乜撚都唔知，佢就淨係想快啲 keep 咗人哋間鋪，就搞呢個大頭佛出嚟。當然啦，其實呢個都係一個大話嚟嘅，即係總之就係。如果佢真係咁樣嘅話，係佢戇鳩，佢都係抵死，佢都要賠翻錢俾人嘅，因為呢個係前東主同人簽咗合約，有 consignment 咁，可能人哋有晒 list 有晒成，咁佢真係爭6皮，咁只不過係你一定要賠6皮俾人嘅啫，因為人哋有證據擺咗幾多貨喺度，佢收咗幾多錢噶，你冇得拗嘅。咁個問題就係你餘下嘅問題就係你同個前東主，原來前東主呃你嘅，你就告鳩前東主，而唔關 Mansell 父子事嘅。
of a dispute on the timeline, and this is what's going to make the story so hard to tell, is like they say you guys are unreasonable. They tried, and eventually they gave up. But they say they tried it. They were basically met with like unreasonable requests, things like that. So
verification, documentation, is that unreasonable? Do you think?
幾撚串啊個 CEO？
Well, I think they would say they provided the documentation, and you guys say you need more documentation. So I mean, that's kind of the
right. A spread, like I understand, a spreadsheet and a contract are a good start.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we never got that. That was never sent to us at corporate.
我哋冇收到喎。
Y'all do have the spreadsheet though, yeah?
That was shared online, but months after we asked for it.
It says it's. I'm so confused. It says I'm on the file right now. It says storage used, owned by BAM Franchising Inc. Owner
BAM 自己擁有嘅嗰個 spreadsheet， 即係你當嗰啲 Google Excel 啦。
Salem.or bricksandminifigs.com.
What are you looking at?
It says owner Salem.BAM
franchise
at bricksandminifigs.com. That's you
guys.
It says owned by BAM Franchising Inc.
離開嘅嗰個
spreadsheet. September 6, 2024. When I look at it, this is the Mansell.
冇見到啊，冇見到啊！但係人哋個 list 擺晒喺度。
So this would have been created under like so we have the
又要諗兜啦，屌你又講大話。
Y'all definitely have this. Y'all have access to this.
Well, I had no idea. Like, so this is the first that anybody has shown me that a spreadsheet was created using like Bricks and Minifigs Salem, like, and all of this stuff was archived. This is the first I've seen that this spreadsheet was created by Crystal. We don't know how accurate it is, how up to date it was. We don't know a lot.
屌你老味，隔咗咁撚耐都唔知有個咁嘅 spreadsheet， 你講嘢啊
？Types of things and understand. I appreciate you sharing this with us because we had no idea. Again, you don't know what you don't know, and you can't like we don't know everything, and we don't go like looking in every nook and cranny everywhere. Like we just don't know some of those things. So if that's there, we can now have our team go look for that.
When it comes right down to it, they're going to have to make a judgment call and say who's telling the truth. The people who were taking all the pictures and say, and we couldn't take pictures of everything the night of, but we're being honest consistently, and the people who are saying there was $5,000 there. Really? Like that makes no sense. We've got the evidence.
係啊，咁你又會知道啲貨係值2000至5000。
Pictures of everything, but does that mean that the discrepancy is and therefore these missing, percentage, whatever that would be, 5%, is some magical other place? Or it was sitting there in the store and we didn't get pictures of it.
If I messed up on my record keeping, I will take accountability for that. It's possible. If my staff didn't draw attention that consignments had left out, so I'd move them to the thing. Any of that, I will take accountability to that. I am.
你話佢承認責任啊？如果係我失誤嘅，我
I need BAM to show me those tickets. But
有單就俾
sit
錢。
down with Brian and talk this over and figure out what we missed and where it was missed and how it was missed, and make that right with him.
I mean, that's new information no one's ever found out. So that's like awesome.
Chris
They're going to
Bank.
lose hundreds of millions of dollars because of their own wrongdoing. They're literally going to destroy their entire company because they're this stubborn over maybe $20,000 worth of Lego.
Sure, I'll be keeping you in the loop with what
Nice. I'm excited. This was good work. My other final thoughts is, dude, you solved it, dude. That's awesome.
就係咁啦，呢個就係我哋嘅直播啦，即係我哋今日睇嘅呢條片啦。基本上咧，嗱呢個 YouTuber 就好撚勁啦，即係起碼佢揾得晒呢啲人出嚟，然後又可以攞到人哋啲 Excel 啊，又攞到成啊，咁啊去知道晒條數啦。佢又勁好心機揾人盤點，揾人 check 晒啲數，咁到最後啲數係幾清晰嘅。即係總之 Mansell 父子咧就俾人爭咗6至8皮美金，咁嗰晚交易嘅嗰一日咧就起碼有2萬蚊貨喺入邊，另外嗰啲唔知去咗邊，有啲咧就係舊東主未找數俾 Mansell 父子啦，有啲好明顯咧就係俾個新東主即係總公司嗰架 U-Haul 咧暈撚走咗咧，亦都係真嘅，係啦就係咁樣啦。咁即係呢個就係今日嘅結論啦，而亦都大家可以見到兩樣嘢啦。一就係個 CEO 咧係講大話嘅，因為明明就係有架 U-Haul 喺出邊，即係後尾佢鳩撚鬥啦，鳩鬥啦，我稱之為白撚黐噶啦。之後另外咧就係臨尾啦，就係喂，屌你老味，你喺度屌鳩人乜撚，又話唔撚俾 spreadsheet， 又話唔撚俾 contract 嘅，人哋一撚早已經 share 咗，勁撚早已經俾咗你，然後你又扮睇唔到，仲要個 owner 係你本人，你自己間公司，然後話我冇睇過，今日先第一次睇到咁樣。係好撚癲嘅，咁喺度咧，我唔係想幫個原有個東主，即係嗰對夫婦去辯護或者成。不過做呢啲咧 stock take 啊，即係賣咗一件要孖翻低啊，呢啲咧就係好亂嘅條數。即係我自己公司，我自己嘢，冇人同我爭啊嚇，即冇嘢要分，冇嘢要成啦。但係你問我買咗幾盒黃皮即係幾多盒黃皮蜂蜜啊？嘅幾多罐湯有為啊？呢啲咧我都有陣時就係我自己又攞一罐，啲同事又攞一罐翻屋企食咧。咁個 stock take 都係會有上下嘅，點都即係你冇得好準嘅，除非你每日 stock take 一次個倉啦咁樣。咁但係其實間公司都係㗎啦。你今日 Uniqlo 究竟佢有幾多件大碼白色 T 咧？佢都答你唔到嘅。即使佢有好完善嘅 inventory， 咁所以咧我就唔會好怪個原東主，喂你好似找漏咗數俾人喎，因為本身佢俾人趕走嗰日就突然間趕走啦，咁啊佢亦都攞唔走啲單啦，咁佢亦都即係可能有啲單佢係 miss 咗未找數，即係啲嘢遲2個月，咁總有呢啲㗎啦。咁但係佢都會起碼喺個電視即係受訪嘅期間就係話，我哋會坐翻低講，我攞啲單，我就會知道我漏咗幾多錢，咁我係會補償翻賠償翻嘅，起碼佢會講呢句。然後你由到尾見到個 CEO 就我唔知喎，冇喎，唔係我哋喎，我冇錯喎咁樣，但係好明顯嘅全部都係講大話咯。咁嚟緊咧，我希望咧都會繼續同大家做下呢直播嘅，都幾過癮嘅。係啦，咁啊然後好似嗱 Reckless Band 咧就出咗條片啦。其實咧佢主要咧佢出咗2個 episode 嘅啫，有啲係回應人，有啲係成啦咁樣，有啲係放翻啲唔同嘅即係嗰啲 body cam 出嚟啦。 佢哋係剪好咗第3集嘅，不過因為呢一單官司咧，佢哋唔可以出第3集。但係呢個禁制令咧，應該唔會好耐嘅。有機會好快就可以甩咗呢個所謂禁制令，因為你唔能夠禁制一啲未出現過嘅嘢噶。OK， 呢一個係破壞咗言論自由噶。OK， 咁應該係有啲律師團隊或者個人那樣做嘢咧，應該係短時間內咧呢個禁令就唔會有噶啦。如果呢個禁令唔會有咧，好大機會佢會放第3集出嚟嘅。咁如果佢放第3集出嚟咧，我都會好開心，好想咧同大家一齊直播睇嘅，就係咁樣啦。咁啊，大家喜歡呢啲嘅呢啲交流啊，或者係中意呢個模式嘅都可以講下嘅。因為我都有諗過咧，就係我之後星期5嘅直播咧，可能即係唔會咁長啦，唔會成個鐘啦。但係呢個世界發生好多事，呢個世界好多片睇，而我哋睇唔同片嘅時候咧，我哋可以有唔同嘅判斷，有唔同嘅解讀，有唔同嘅邏輯去分析究竟呢個人係咪鳩噏啊，各樣那樣啊，或者喂原來呢個世界另一啲人拍嘅片，原來佢哋係咁樣睇呢件事喎，原來呢樣嘢係咁樣嘅喎，咁都好想同大家咧可以用呢啲方式咧去睇嘅。咁啊，今日暫時嚟到呢度啦。如果中意呢個方式啊，嗰樣啊，咪俾啲意見我啦 ，IGDM 又好，今條片下面留言都好啦。咁啊，希望咧提供多啲唔同嘅資訊啊，又娛樂又資訊，咁啊俾大家。下次片同咪音量一致翻，我太細聲啊！今次我較大聲咗啲噶啦，已經，因為上次就係個片嘅聲太大，大家 keep 住一個直播提我就得噶啦，就係咁。咁啊，下條片就係禮拜4片啦。咁啊，小弟禮拜日咧都要放假啦，咁我終於可以放假啦。今個星期係啦，咁啊，聽日繼續翻工係啦。聽晚有會員直播，會員直播有奇人嘅星期一襯一襯啊。咁啊，會同大家講下唔同嘅。病咧係有啲咩食療可以去幫嘅？有冇會員直播啊？記得係會員直播嚟嘅，聽晚嗰個9點鐘係啊，咁啊會員嘅就聽晚見，唔係會員嘅星期4見，拜拜。